Every time I see you, I realize that things can get worse. I'm not speaking bad things into the world. Oh, this hasn't happened before. Seeing you here after your home time is insane. Finally, your phone is charged and now you can go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on Zambia. What a day. We really appreciate that you're always here to take a look at some of the big news stories in the country. And my name is Dingindaba Jonah Buyoya. I'm very delighted that you're here. Coming up on the show, we are going to take a look at the power outages and then more power outages and then more power outages and then water outages. No. But okay, anyway, let's get straight into it. I want to get straight into it. Welcome to Zambia What a Day. Let's start off. I was saying before we started recording that the one thing I didn't see happening was people running out of bread. And, the bakery industry is now facing a huge crisis here in Lusaka because of unstable electricity supply. One of the bakers in Lusaka's Marapodi compound has lost thousands of kwacha in dal following a power cut in the middle of the baking of bread. Oh. But how do you not have backup, though? Doreen Nankala says the business is threatened as no production has been taking place in the last few days, incurring losses. She says the government must come in and support such businesses with alternative power sources before they find themselves on the streets. Let's take a look at this.
Zambia is currently experiencing load shedding due to low water levels at Kariba Dam. This has affected many sectors, and among them is the bakery industry, which is at the verge of collapsing. A check by Diamond News has revealed that some bakeries are making losses due to the sponge going bad, such as this one.
Since it went at 01, meaning the night shift were in production, and then power cuts off at 01. So this is the sponge that you're seeing around. So meaning this is going to waste. They should help us, because they said 3 hours. Now, to us, 3 hours is not enough.
Those that are managing production are experiencing long queues as the demand is ever increasing.
Maraiti kuno yamankara 3 days 4 days tiribe maraiti. So yakankara 3 days 4 days yazabwera day imozi.
The power outage
yakabwera bakapanga bread bamapanga hafu yamene bapangako yo bantu pamankala line bazula furu chikwera maningi. So manje taona kuti nkani ya maraiti yachita bwanji yaretera abantu ma problem.
Meanwhile, Chinsali bakeries tend to use of charcoal oven to address load shedding, but lament that the shift is labor intensive, resulting in a drop of business.
This time around, the way we work, it is quite challenging. We can't rely on electricity, so we have decided to turn to the use of charcoal oven. But the challenge is that the charcoal oven is labor intensive compared to the electricity one. We have had times when we have not even managed to bake. People are being turned back. The 3 hours load shedding, as announced by ZESCO, for us is going to be more challenging, because in 3 hours we cannot manage to bake. We can only use the same 3 hours for just mixing the flour and also allowing it to raise.
The current situation is being attributed to reduced power imports from the southern circuit via Namibia due to a converter fault and ongoing annual plant maintenance at Mamba Collieries. ZESCO is advising people to use alternative power sources, but how many can afford? Victoria Kayeye Yambani, Diamond News.
All right. So, oh my goodness. This is such a huge risk. And, for me, just thinking of the fact that that's how desperate businesses are. Because if you're having electricity for just about 3 hours a day, and with the trends by Zesco to risk going in and trying to bake this bread without electricity, without certainty on how long you're going to have electricity, just shows how desperate the businesses are, because they're trying to push in some work in the short space of time that they have electricity. And and also a glaring reality of what some of these businesses have to go through, because backup electricity is so expensive that they'll just rather go with what they have, and that is Zesco. What they don't have, and that is Zesco, and running these huge losses. These are the ripple effects of this energy crisis that we are experiencing. And, like I say always on this podcast, if there's one thing that you don't need to explain to anyone what the impact of is load shedding, because every one of us is experiencing it firsthand. Like, no one is going to be an expert and say, no, like nobody's going to come and start explaining the effects of load shedding, because people have it firsthand. And it's just really, really sad that it's like every time you see the effects of load shedding, it's like it says, but wait, there's more. And, a lot of people are experiencing it differently. And Diamond News has been talking to a lot of these people across the country, exploring the impact of load shedding to their livelihood. And, we spoke with people from Mufulira, Chipata, Mansa, Lusaka. So Samuel is bringing us this report to just take a look at the extent of the problem around the country.
Small businesses and livelihoods are on the brink due to Zambia's energy crisis. Drought has crippled Zambia's hydropower, leaving 80% of the country's energy supply in limbo. Citizens are facing prolonged power cuts with only 3 hours of unassured power supply in residential areas. In Livingstone, car washing services are struggling to cope with the power outages. Diamond TV's staffer Josiah Smova interacted with car wash business owners.
Enjoyment facing hapa no ni load shedding mkani ama over 7 sama over 7 sama gani mapesa kati wantu akapwera pesa shima over kuri pyo yana ngwapwerera bayenda chabe na nkanya gani bapeza ati bantu shita connect wambiri bamafuna magani moja wakapeza ati maybe achoka kumunzi bana mataka mu motoka so bamafuna magani wambiri na maovu ndiye challenge amene facing kwa once enterprise.
In Mfurira, Copperbelt Province, poultry farmer Charles Chishala faces a similar fate. His customers are buying fewer chickens due to their inability to store food in refrigerators.
Load shedding of electricity. These chickens grows every after 1 week. Now, if there is no electricity, especially during the night, they are not eating. And if they are not eating, the growth is very slow. And not only that, we are also having challenges when selling them. Even the feed has gone too expensive, and the people are not buying so many chickens, like 5 chickens, 6 chickens, the reason that they can't put in their fridges because of the load shedding. So the selling is very slow. So it is taking time to sell them.
In Chipata City, butchery owners are demanding that Zesco share the 3 hours of power supply fairly to avoid huge losses.
Chifunga atipasa ndondomeko bwino kuti omalaita ya pa 10 hours azaenda muntu apulana bwino. But manje apa ndondomeko ya Zesco sioneka malaita.
The challenge with Zesco is that they don't follow their own timetable. You find that we experience power outage in a short time, power will be restored. How are we going to plan as butchery owners ourselves? This is so devastating. We are asking if they can be following their plan on the few hours which they've given to us. While other businesses are on their knees, laundry operators in Mansa, Lopla province, are experiencing a surge due to extended load shedding hours. Laundry operators are cashing in and workers have to wait for power anytime to make money.
The business is fine. I can't complain. Customers are flocking in. Except that sometimes when we have a lot of customers, we are failing to finish within the required time due to power outages.
As authorities scramble for solutions, businesses and livelihoods continue to suffer. Samo Sylvester Kwawe, Diamond News.
In the last episode of Zambia What a Day, power actually cut. And even today, it cut. It's just that it cut before we started recording. And I saw somebody was asking in the comments, they were like, did you guys stage that? You know, yeah, like it was a shocker for me. But had we started recording? We had started. We were just about to start.
You were reading the story.
I was reading the story.
You said what's going to go on and what's not going to go.
And then power cut, yeah. But yeah, very unfortunate situation there. As if not having power is not enough, water crisis has hit parts of Lusaka as most boreholes dry up, coupled with prolonged hours of load shedding. Kamala South is the most affected community, as most residents who depend on boreholes have stayed without water for over seven days. We talked about this actually last week, and now it's getting because this is like just as unstable as the electricity supply, if not worse. This microphone here, and the people that we've been talking to are saying that the extended hours of load shedding that they are experiencing have affected them severely because they depend on electricity to pump the water into their boreholes. And if you don't have electricity, you won't have water. I had such a situation, actually. But let's take a look at this, and I'll talk about this after.
In Kamala South, the community is on the brink of desperation. A severe water shortage has left residents without access to water, which is a basic necessity, forcing them to rely on expensive private suppliers or travel long distances in search of a precious resource. According to the residents, the water crisis has been attributed to long hours of load shedding and the drying of boreholes due to low water levels. As the situation continues to deteriorate, the people of Kamwala South are crying out for help.
Kwamba fyo kururumba katushinga kuyasangira kwisa na tukwata obwa fyo bukulu tuwafwe kufya menshi nga batupela kufya malaiti ni shina menshi ifitwa kwata pano amenye malaiti nga yaisa ni shameshero ya laisa mu tanki ayo yali uko namba malaiti nga takuli ni shameshi tatukwete namba shishi bemwe buteko fo mwana tuwafwirisha nga mwana tuwafwirisha.
Mrs. Banda's residence is just a case in point. Several other households are affected. For now, the Libala Waterworks is the only source of hope for the affected communities. Accessing the commodity here is another challenge for the private Bowser operators.
Water crisis, like mu Salama Park tamuri amenshi, Charala takuri amenshi, Dilai takuri amenshi. Gefyo mumene iwinanga tulimu hapa. Abamboza abengina ya na dry up. So I think the crisis is sana. So at least we are trying to help abantu muri amabondi muri maturetwara mingi. So abantu bale shupanga mwa na twata makozi maybe 70 cause. Namba waraba pera shani abantu pamukomo bonse.
The problem is the water table. This is just September. The water table has gone low. Now you can imagine when we touch somewhere October. So we're asking for Lusaka Water if they can open up more outlets like we have mass media. I'm told it is closed. Why don't they open it so that we start drawing water from there?
The civic leader, Minders Matter, is of the view that the residents should put hands together to help the situation.
Even 3 hours of power supply have been administered by ZESCO. The water crisis in Kamala South has escalated, and we have hundreds of households really that are struggling to get water for their day-to-day needs in their community. Meantime, what we are urging communities to do is to contribute resources, because we don't have a budget line as a whole government to hire water bowsers on have, and the only source of water right now, even for those that have got boreholes which are drying up, is to purchase water at a very affordable cost, of course.
They can't wash or even have safe water to drink. They are calling on the authorities to act fast and help in any way possible. Not everyone can afford a water bowser. Worse enough, the demand for the commodity is increasingly high. Peter Zunda Jr., Dama News.
Yeah, so in the first few weeks of this load shedding thing, I experienced something similar because I needed a pump. I've always needed a pump to pump water from the ground into the tank, and then the pump also, because the tank at my home was not an overhead tank. It was just on the ground. So I needed a pump anyway to pump water into the house. And so load shedding hits, and at first it was like 8 hours and whatever. So, you kind of, but the thing is, when power cuts, then water would be cut inside the house. You open the taps and there's no water. And at that time, the thinking was, okay, this thing is going to be sorted out soon. The whole load shedding thing is going to be sorted out. And then we started getting more information that it was going to be long before this problem is sorted out. And I was forced to have now 2 tanks, one overhead tank and one ground tank. So when there's no power, we use the overhead tank, and when there's power, we use the ground tank. So just to conserve water. And I've just come to realize how bad the problem is when you don't have water storage, because people just don't have water. People just don't have water. And some of us are lucky because we don't live with huge families or anything like that. But imagine, because if you're not home, there's barely anyone there. And same applies, for a lot of other people. But majority of the people in the country live, so many of them, in a home. And because they live so many of them in a home, they consume more water. And because they consume more water, they're likely to be hit by a water shortage much quicker than anybody else. Because it's a home of 5 people. 5 people have to bathe their bodies every day. They have to cook food for 5 people. They have to drink water for 5 people. They have to wash clothes for 5 people. So then they consume more water. And so whatever storage they have is going to deplete much quicker. And I'm just like, what is worse than not having electricity is not having water. You can find a way of surviving an electricity shortage, but what is the way of surviving a water shortage? You just need water. If there's no electricity, you're not going to die because, unless you're in a hospital, but you're not going to die because there's no power inside your house. No, don't do that. No, guys. Yeah, no, don't do that. Don't do that. It's not right for you to be laughing at that. But yeah, you're not gonna die if there's no electricity. If you're in the house, it's just dark. But you're probably gonna have some health problems if you're not having water. And people will find water. When you're thirsty, I've heard people can even drink water from this tank, because it's like, man's got to do what man's got to do. I'm just. Can you imagine? And there's probably people looking at this water and admiring it, Yeah. Anyway, President Hakainde Hichilema has held bilateral talks with his counterpart Xi Jinping, China's president in Beijing. The two leaders announced their elevation of the Zambia-China ties of a comprehensive strategic partnership. They also agreed to continue building a high-level relation with a shared future. President Xi thanked Mr. Hichilema for ensuring that China and Zambia continue to share their bilateral ties to advance trade and economic development programs. Let's take a look at this.
Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema has again met with China's President Xi Jinping for bilateral talks in Beijing, China, since the two leaders met in 2023. The talks focus on strengthening the enduring relationship between Zambia and China, which has been solid since 1964. The discussions by the two leaders also represent a crucial step in advancing their bilateral ties and a new chapter for the next 60 decades of friendly relations.
This year marks the 60th anniversary of our bilateral relations. Our two countries' friendship and cooperation forged by our forefathers has remained as strong as ever after all these years. And it has been progressing with the times and is now brimming with vitality. On the new journey in the new era, I'm ready to work with you to use this year's summit as an opportunity to join hands in advancing our respective modernization and create a good start and a new chapter for the next 6 decades of our friendly relations. Over to you, Mr. President.
Very keen to deepen our relationship, our cooperation for mutual benefit. We also understand the importance of China in maintaining or assuring global peace, stability and security, because that comes with the level of development that you've achieved together with your other global partners to keep the world safe, secure, to minimize conflicts in the world so we can focus our time, resources, and indeed technology to advancing our economic development agenda for our people, to benefit our people. Otherwise, we're very, very delighted to be here, President Xi Jinping, and we're looking forward to a full cooperation in the meeting that commences tomorrow, and the subsequent programs of work, projects that will arise from there. We are very keen to enhance our cooperation, our interaction between businesses, Chinese businesses and Zambian businesses.
Aside from having bilateral talks, the two leaders were joined by Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan to witness the signing of an agreement for the revitalization of Tanzania-Zambia Railway Authority Tazara Corridor. Later, President Hichilema witnessed another signing ceremony of another MOU on the 3 energy power agreement between ZESCO and China's Power Construction Corporation of China, and also attended a Zambia Power Development Forum. Mr. Hichilema, who is in China, is among dozens of African leaders to attend the 9th Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, FOCAC. He is expected to speak at the forum. Darius Jonah, Damo News, Beijing, China.
It comes after, when President Hakainde Hichilema came into office, there was a lot of uncertainty on how he was going to align himself. He said, and he and his government said they were going to be neutral, but there was also concern on the allegiance, if that's a word I can use, or alignment towards the West. And you know what's going on with the West and the East. They're not exactly the best of friends. So seeing the president, it's the second time President Hichilema is in China. Second time he's holding talks with the Chinese President Xi Jinping. And it's good to see, because Zambia is a non-aligned, kind of takes a neutral policy. And in global development, I think that Zambia can do well to partner with as many people as they can. I mean, the US itself does partner with China on several issues. A lot of the industrial growth of the US, production of US companies is in China. So they can coexist despite the disagreements that they have. And that's pretty much what you will have to say about Zambia, and the position that Zambia has to put itself in, that Zambia also has to work with the different partners, the different countries. We don't need to be enemies of anyone for us to be friends with the other. So it's good to see the president, taking these initiatives, and they're talking important things. And one of the things, obviously key, is economic transformation for Zambia. But I think part of that economic transformation is finding solutions to Zambia's energy problem, and that's what we need to do. That's what we need to do for the future. This problem has hit us now, and it better be the last. It better be the last that we're having such a primitive problem in 2024. Because imagine this happening again. And the extent that we've had this problem now, if it happened again, would just mean we're not as serious people. We've seen how bad it can be, how crippling it can be to the economy. And if we are not putting a stop to this, then there's no saving us. There's just no saving us. And I hope there's saving us. But yeah, that's it, Zambia. What a day.